Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the information session for our spring competitive cycle. We're going to go through some basic information. We have a couple of changes that were initiated in this process that we'll touch on. For many of you, you may have, a lot of this will be familiar. You'll have seen it before, but we've added in a few more points and tips of things that we are seeing on applications in the past that will help you design and prepare your application for this cycle. We will make the PowerPoint slides and the recording video available to everyone. So please don't feel that you need to write down everything you're seeing on the screen. You will get these slides. Some slides I will, as you know, from past experience, I'll be jumping through because one, you get the slide deck and you'll be able to see them, and two, they're more there just sort of as preparation for a next section of information that's coming out. Or coming up, I should say, in the presentation. For those that are new to our overall process, this is how the terms that you'll see throughout the slides and the information session, as well as when we talk about our competitive grant making. Now that we offer two opportunities to submit applications, we refer to the full funding year as an annual process, and that incorporates two application cycles. Our funding year is a calendar year, so all funding available for our competitive grants process is, for example, right now available in calendar year 2026. We offer two cycles, one in the fall and one in the spring. We open early in the fall in order to prepare for top of year funding distributions. And then the spring cycle is for mid-year funding distributions. So we often refer to our process and our cycles as a hyphenated year, 2025, 2026. So you'll often see that. As a reminder, I went through the list. I don't believe there's anyone on, but just in case, as a reminder, if your organization applied in the fall cycle and received a competitive process grant, your organization is not eligible to apply in the spring cycle. We only award a single competitive grant in a full calendar year funding process. So once again, if you received a grant award in the fall cycle, you are not eligible to apply in the spring. If you applied in the fall and were denied, you are eligible to apply in this cycle. I always touch on this at the top of the presentations because this is as helpful, I think, sometimes as it is to how to design your application so that you know coming in those items and projects and issues and initiatives that we cannot accept applications for support. We do not make grants directly to individuals, nor do we provide funding that are for initiatives that are re-granting our funds. Now, what does re-granting our funds mean? That means if you were to apply for a grant, that you would then pool with other funding and then you run your own application process for nonprofit organizations to re-grant that out to other nonprofits as a funder. That is an application that we don't consider. Our applications must be direct impact to your programs, your projects, your direct impact with residents in our footprint. We also don't consider applications for annual fundraising campaigns or event sponsorships or capital improvement and capital improvement building projects. There's very specific criteria of what building enhancements or building projects qualify as capital improvements. We can make that available, and you can definitely probably have that in your own definitions. So those are such large projects that we are not able to accept applications for those. We also do not support applications that recoup lost revenue, which occurred during a previous calendar year or at the top of this year. So if you're trying to make up for a budget shortfall in a previous calendar year that you would otherwise carry forward, this is not a process for that. We also are very cautious in evaluating applications that support programs and materials that go through large municipal divisions, government agencies, and school districts. We want to make sure that we are enhancing and supplementing those programs, not replacing normally budgeted operating monies and taking those budgeted operating monies and then therefore redirecting them. Our funding cannot be used to pay debt, legal settlements, or if you are still maybe repaying certain COVID-19 related loans, this funding cannot be used for any type of loan repayment. Nor do we support political or partisan purposes, campaigns, or lobbying activities. I want to be clear on here. We are very much in favor of educational efforts that help residents learn how to be activists or how to advocate on their own behalf. That's advocacy education, and that's directed out into the community at large in order to help people understand what they can advocate for on their own behalf or on behalf of their community. That's different from lobbying. Lobbying is a very specific type of advocacy that happens at the state capitol and has to be reported as lobbying. So those types of activities we will not consider. And we also, while we have churches and other religious organizations request support for community-wide non-religious programs, we will consider that. However, we cannot consider applications that exclusively serve a religious purpose. And we also do not support applications for endowments, reserve funds, or annual fund drives, as I said. So here are the things to remember, particularly if your organization serves a footprint that is larger than Middlesex County. Our application process is focused specifically on programs and services that occur in Middlesex County and support Middlesex County residents. It may be part of a larger program with a larger footprint, but we are focused on the impact and benefits to our 15-town geographic footprint. And you can only receive one competitive award, and that, as I mentioned earlier, if an organization receives a competitive award in the fall cycle, they're not eligible. But it also means, and I'll touch on this in a later slide as well, you can only submit one application for consideration. You cannot submit multiple applications. Once again, while we always work hard to provide as much funding throughout our footprint for as many applications as possible, there is no guarantee of funding. It is a competitive process. There are great programs happening. There are many services happening in our community, and it is definitely a lot of need and finite funding availability, both for us and for many other funders. So while we definitely appreciate the applications because it helps us understand, we cannot guarantee a submission or a grant award to every application necessarily, but our hope is that maybe we can. That would be great. So here's one of the key things. Many of you will remember this from pre-COVID. This is a new guideline that we are reinstating. So for many years, we had a requirement. It was called the 3-year on, 1 year off requirement. What did that mean? That meant that if an organization received 3 consecutive competitive process grants, 3 years in a row, you receive a competitive process grant, you were required to take the 4th year off from an application, to sit out the whole application process. We are reinstating that guideline effective with this 2025-2026 process. Everybody starts at year zero. We're not going back and looking at what happened during COVID when we tabled this guideline. We're starting for everyone starts at zero in the 2025-2026 process. If you receive a grant in the spring cycle, that will be considered year one. And once again, this is for competitive process grants, and it will begin with this year. And if you receive a grant consecutively for the next 3 competitive process years, you will be required to not apply in your 4th year. The other thing that the other aspect of our grants that we have really been looking at, and we've done a lot of research and assessing over several years, the applications that are coming in. We're stressing that we cannot consider applications where we are the sole primary funder. So what does that mean? So if your application if your program costs $5,000 and you ask the Community Foundation for $5,000, that's a sole funding instance. That means that we are the only funder you are considering to support that program. We're not putting a percentage on this. We're not saying it has to be 10% or 20% that comes from somewhere else or 50%, because different programs have different total project budget costs and have funding that comes in from a variety of places. But what we are saying is we will no longer consider applications where we are the only funder to that. And I have gotten this question occasionally, so I wanted to speak to this as well. Someone asked me in the last cycle, what about in kind? We think an opportunity to get in kind towards a program or a project is great. However, often in kind could be the access to a room, or maybe somebody, offering to print your flyers or your materials for free. And that doesn't necessarily if that were to go away, it doesn't necessarily mean your program won't happen, but we are still then the only monetary funding you are seeking to support that application. So we are asking to consider where are your funding sources coming from to actually monetarily help your programs and your services happen. And the best way, as you're thinking about this going forward, is ask yourself, if the Community Foundation of Middlesex County were only able to partially fund or could not fund at all our application, do we have other funding sources that we are seeking or already have that would ensure our program goes forward? If the answer to that is yes, it's not a sole funding request. If the answer is we don't have any other funding opportunities, then that is a sole funding and we cannot consider that application. As a reminder, we have 2 applications that we are currently accepting. One is the general funding. I'll put that on the screen in just a second for everyone. That covers the majority of our focus areas and incorporates about 9 committees that consider applications during this process. And then we also have our Janvrin Fund, which has very specific criteria and is a maximum request of $15,000. We will consider applications from 501c3 organizations, both those that are physically located in Middlesex County and solely serve Middlesex County. If your organization is located outside Middlesex County and or serves a geographic footprint larger than Middlesex County, your applications must directly relate to Middlesex County. We also consider applications for groups under direct fiscal sponsorship, government entities such as municipal divisions and departments and school districts, and healthcare organizations. But those must be for specific projects that are occurring in Middlesex County and must be budget enhancing, curriculum enhancing, not budget or curriculum replacement funding. We will consider applications from faith-based organizations, but they must be for a broad community outreach and must not require adherence to a specific religious doctrine. And of course, we always are excited to see collaborative applications. And in the case of collaborations, we'll touch on this in a few minutes, only one organization is the primary applicant. Most of you are familiar with where to go on our website to get information, but as a reminder, everything, if you hover on our homepage, if you hover over nonprofits, you'll get a drop-down menu, and under grants program, you will find the 2 pages where the application information is available. For the general and for the Janvrin both, once you're on the page, you will see information on how to apply. I should have replaced that. It should have had the new due date, which is April 2nd. But on the right, on each of those pages, you can access the FAQ, the application instructions, an application overview, which provides you access to all the questions that are in the application, as well as the required CFMC budget summary form. The information slides are posted out there right now. You can go ahead and download those, and probably on Monday or Tuesday, the link for the information session recording will be available there as well, but we'll also email it to you. To launch either the general application form or the Janvrin Fund, you will look for the big orange button, and that will launch your application form. So for the general process, what we call the general application, those are general funding and program specific requests up to $5,000 that must serve Middlesex County. It can serve 1 town, can serve 3 towns, it could serve all 15 towns, depending on what your programs and services are, but everything must serve Middlesex County. It could support programs and services, technology and equipment. It could maybe a new program or a new project, an ongoing program. It could be internal capacity building, organization improvement, as well as training and technical assistance. We have a lot of areas of interest that we are interested in. As a community foundation, we are interested in everything that happens to help make our community the best community that it can be, and to provide access to all sorts of programs and services. So the general application could be a broad range of organization missions, and all of those are listed here. As well as many of our field of interest committees, which are listed here. Those include animals, the Respect and Friendship Fund, at-risk boys and young men, women and girls, seniors and veterans. We also have 2 funds that are town-specific. Our Deep River Cares Fund is very interested in programs and services that serve the residents of Deep River. And the Killingworth Community Fund are very interested in applications that serve the Killingworth community. You will not select the specific committee you would like to review your application on when you're filling out your application. What you will select is the area of impact or focus that most aligns with your request. As your applications come in, we review them and we determine which committees may be aligned with your request. Some applications may only go to our General Grants Committee, which reviews the largest number of applications in the broadest range of areas of impact and focus. But sometimes your application may actually meet both our General Grants Committee's interest areas, which is pretty much everything, as well as one of our special field of interest funds. So your application could be reviewed by 2 or more committees, depending on what the request is. And we do all of that vetting internally. Janvrin, same thing. You're going to go to the home page, hover over nonprofits, and you can go to the Janvrin Fund page. Once again, on the right, once you land, you will find links to the FAQ, application instructions, the application overview, The Janvrin Fund application also requires our CFMC budget summary form, and you'll have access to the session slides and the recording. The Janvrin Fund has a very specific criteria. The mission of the fund is to preserve, protect, and steward land, waterways, and wildlife habitats for birds and other wildlife, as well as the well-being and enjoyment of residents within the natural world. And these can touch on communities. They should touch on communities in Middlesex County, but they can also touch on communities and regions that are outside of Middlesex County, that surround Middlesex County, because often many of our natural areas, waterways and wildlife, have very large footprints. And so there could be a lot of crossover there. These requests are up to 15,000, and these will leverage not only your organizational dollars, but other funding. I do want to stress that at this time, we are not accepting land acquisition applications, so this is not part of this process. For those that may meet the criteria, the slide deck includes certain ways. We are always interested not only in more traditional ways to steward the land and approach ensuring habitat viability, but we're also interested in sort of thinking outside the box of how to engage our community, particularly our youth, in environmental education so that we can develop the next generation of stewards, as well as ensuring that all members of our community, regardless of where they live or their ability to access our natural areas, can actually get out and enjoy our natural environments. So some tips and things to consider when you are writing your application narrative. Both of our applications include two core questions. We're very interested in what is the purpose of your application? What is the need that you are seeking funding support for? And then what is your sustainability plan for that program or service? And how will you assess your impact? Those are the two core questions. Both are long narrative questions. There is a character count. I encourage you to draft your responses in some type of Word or Pages document so that, one, you can track your characters, but also so that you can ensure that you're speaking specifically to what your need is and at what you're hoping to accomplish, the timeline, your goals and objectives, who it will benefit, how you're going to do that outreach, because you can paste it into the application itself. In the character count, it will count bullets, it will count paragraph returns. Let me stress something here. Please do not write your narrative as one single big block of text. Think about it if you were receiving it and you needed to read it, if there were no paragraph breaks, if it's just one big, huge, long, page-long single block of text, it's very hard to follow. Our volunteers on our grants committees are your next door neighbors, the person down the street. They are everyday people. They have an interest in what's happening in Middlesex County. They thoroughly enjoy working with us in the process, and we really appreciate the time that they do. But they're very thorough in reading your applications. But we want you to think about, as you're presenting your information, think about if you knock on your next door neighbor's door and were to hand them your draft narrative, would they be able to fully follow what it is that you need to do, what you're hoping to accomplish, and is it written in such a way that they can track along with it without having to sort of get lost in a very large paragraph? I say this and I point this out because in the past we have received applications that are just one great big block of text, and they're really hard, particularly because many of our volunteers are great and get everything electronically these days, for them to track through the responses. So you can do rich text formatting, which means you can bold, you can bullet point, you can separate, do paragraph returns. So please take advantage of that. When you think about your narratives, you be specific. A little bit of background, or exterior information is helpful, but make sure that you really focus on what your request is for, what you're hoping to accomplish, what your purpose and your need are, and stay on point. And for the sustainability assessment question, just consider if this is, particularly if this is you're seeding a new program, piloting a new program, if it's successful, where are you in the development process of that? What is it going to take to launch the program, and what is it going to ensure that you could continue it forward if it works the way you're hoping to? If it's an ongoing program, you can talk about your sustainability and ongoing support for that. And for the assessment, really think about how are you going to determine if you're meeting your goals and objectives? What steps are you going to take to do that? I do want to speak for a moment about seeding and piloting programs, because sometimes this happens. Sometimes organizations, they have a vision and they're thinking, oh, this would be a really great program, but you haven't worked out the particulars. You don't know when you're going to launch it. You don't have specifics on what is going to be a part of that program. You're not really sure how you're going to get the community in. So you may be so early in the development process that you're not ready for an application for funding because you don't have enough specifics. It doesn't necessarily have to be down to the very finite period fully developed, but you have to be far along enough in the development process that you can provide information of what it will take to launch the program, what are the specific goals and objectives, how are you going to bring it to the community, and how are you going to assess it. Please review the FAQ as well as the application outline documents, particularly if you're new to the process before you get started. It's very helpful. It may answer some questions as you're going through. If you still have questions, please feel free to send us an email. We're happy to provide guidance or insight. Applications must be completed on our website. Please do not print them and fill them in by hand and mail them to me. We can't accept them that way. There are required documents. I'll touch on those in just a moment. Those can only be uploaded as PDFs. I need to stress this. Our application form will not accept any file format except a PDF, and that's done to protect our website and our internal document servers. There is no print preview, but you can go back and forth in the application, and there is a save and continue later option, which I will provide. But that's also why we provide an outline of what the application questions are, because that way you can see them ahead of time and prepare your answers in order to complete the application. You will receive a copy of your final application after you hit submit. If you don't receive it in 3 or 4 days, sometimes the servers get bogged down processing email. Check your junk mail folder. Sometimes we get moved into junk. But if you don't get it, let us know and we're happy to forward that to you. If you use the save and complete later option, that is a special URL assigned to your application. So once you have copied that and once you have that by email, it's always yours. If you use the save and continue later option, once you click that, you're going to get this blue box on your screen, and it's going to have a URL. In orange, we have it, see where it says copy first and it's connected to that big red circle. That is the URL assigned to your draft application. Copy that and put it in a Word document where you're working on your narratives, or put it on a sticky note on your computer screen. When you draft your narratives in a Word document, you paste it right in at the top. It's always there because this URL is assigned to your draft application. And then you enter your email address and you send yourself the link. The reason I'm stressing that you should copy this as well as send yourself the link, sometimes quarantine filters don't like our emails and they get trapped for a while. But the other reason is we cannot see your application while you are working on it. It's saved on a temporary server that is not affiliated with the server that hosts our website. We do not get the links. We cannot access it. We can't recover it for you. So please make sure you grab this, and it's the same link assigned to you for 30 days. Luckily, our due date is April 2nd, so you don't have to worry about the 30-day period. But if you owe us evaluations from previous cycles, the same thing applies. You'll get the same type of thing, but the links are only active for 30 days. After 30 days, the temporary server removes your unsubmitted application or evaluation. I want to touch on a couple of key points on our budget summary form, things that we've noticed in recent years as those summary budgets are coming in to try to help with preparing those and pointing out some issues that we've had in the past that have required some follow-up. Both application types, it doesn't matter whether it's a general application or the Jandron Fund application, they both require the CFMC budget summary form to be completed and uploaded to your application. It's available as a Word document on our website. Regardless of whether you're on the general funding page or the Jandron, you'll see in the right-hand links under important documents, the link for the budget summary form. You can download that, save it to your computer, fill it out, save it as a PDF, and then upload it to your application form. If you don't have access to Word documents and you're having difficulties accessing it, please reach out and let us know, and we will provide it in a different format for you. But most of the time, everybody can get it this way. But the big thing here is after you've filled it out, please remember to save it as a PDF before you upload it, because otherwise it won't upload into the application form. So here are the next two screens are the things we see the most sort of incongruities between your application and your budget form. So the first two red arrows that you see are on your application form. The application form asks you, how much are you requesting from the Community Foundation? That's dollar amount requested. And then it asks you the total cost associated with your request. That's the total program cost. So you might be asking for $5,000 from the Community Foundation, but your program actually costs $47,000 to complete or to make happen, right? When you open the summary budget form, the top section is the expense item description. This is where you enter all the pieces that make your project or program possible. It could be marketing materials. It could be room rental. It could be community outreach efforts. It could be transportation. It could be food. It could be lots of things. You don't have to get way down in the itsy bitsy minutia, such as we will have 100 pencils and they cost X so much. So you don't have to do that. But don't just put one line that says our program with a total cost. We want to know what the specifics are, that when we're evaluating the summary, the budgets, when staff is evaluating budgets, we want to be able to see what it takes to make your program possible. When you total up that column on the summary budget form, the blue box at the bottom that says total program expenses, that number should be the same number on your application that says total cost associated with the request. This is where we often see the biggest incongruity. So those don't always match, and then we have to reach out and ask, why don't they match? The second issue that we find with the summary budget form has to do with the bottom part of the form, where we're asking where all the funding is coming from to make your program or service possible. So in this section, the first line is the CFMC grant request. That's how much you're asking from the Community Foundation. That line ties to the dollar amount requested red arrow box on the left of this screen. The next section are other grants or funding. That could be corporate funding. That could be another foundation that you're requesting an application from. And what's this? How much are you requesting? And what's the status? Have you submitted it? Is it committed? Is it pending? Are you planning on requesting it? Because we know some funders have deadlines that are different from ours. And then down below are your other income sources. This could be your operating budget. This could be individual donations. Now, I want to stress this. We don't want the names of your individual single wonderful donors that support you or support a program. Where we may be nosy, but we respect a donor's privacy. But maybe you do a special appeal specifically for this program. So it could be individual donations cumulative and what you anticipate coming in. And at the bottom, if there's specific information we should know about your budget process for your program or service, or any clarification you need to provide, you can include that at the bottom. All organizations are required to submit the organization's board-approved operations budget. This includes your estimated expenses and revenues. That's separate from the CFMC budget summary form. Please do not give us a month-by-month, 12-month profit and loss. Hopefully, most organizations are developing a budget and having the board review it and approve it on an annual basis so that you have a good long-term sense for a calendar year of where your various expenses are falling and what your potential estimated contributions or revenues will be to pay for those expenses. That's the budget form we're looking for when we ask for your budget. That helps us get an overall sense of the organization and its ongoing operations. And then the CFMC budget summary form, which is available in Word, you download and you complete that. Nope. Okay. Some tips. Acronyms are great. We, particularly in character count narratives, we use our acronyms as well, but please, the first time you're going to use an acronym, make sure you tell us what the acronym means, because you are the specialists in your area, fields of interest, and your missions, your industries, your focus areas. You know what your acronyms mean. We don't necessarily know what they mean. So the first time you are going to use an acronym, please make sure you spell it out, and then by all means use that acronym throughout your narrative. Remember in your narratives to be clear about what your need is, what your program, what your service, who you're serving, what your request for funding will enable you to do. Be specific and stay on point. Please make sure to discuss your impact, the number of people you serve, the population, the geographic area. And if it's a community outreach program, please make sure you include information about how are you engaging with the community so that they know about your program or service. That's very helpful when we're looking and could be beneficial for another organization that may be struggling with something. Some organizations have come up with some really good outreach and notification efforts to make sure the community is aware of what's happening. Under the demographics section, we do ask the towns that your program or service directly impacts. If your program or service is offered in one town, that's okay. Just check off that one town. If your program or service is directly offered to 5 towns, just check off those 5 towns. That's fine. If your program or service is county-wide and you could have residents from all the 15 towns coming to participate or take advantage of your program or service, then by all means you can check off all 15. But please don't check off all 15 if you're only serving one town. There's no special consideration given to applications that have lots of towns. The question for where the towns are listed is really just to help us see specifically where a program is offered. So don't check off all 15 towns if you're not actually providing your program or service in all 15. The same thing for the total number served. Sometimes, particularly if it's a relatively new program, you may not know exactly how many people, but how many do you hope to help? This is not the census number. I can't stress this enough. This is not the census number. If you think there will be 20 people at your program, that's great. Say 20 people, because that's 20 people you are directly impacting. If you think there might be 200 people, terrific. Say that there will be 200 people. but please do not use town or county census numbers if you cannot clearly state that you will actually serve every single one of those people directly. That's what we've seen in the past. So hang on, I have a question. The question is, when listing additional funding, are we looking for the amount allocated to a particular program or the total amount of funding we receive? Very good question. Thank you for asking that. It's the funding allocated or in process that is related to the program you are applying for. So the CFMC summary budget form is directly linked to what your application is requesting and the revenue and expenses that are tied directly to that program. It's not all the other funding your organization might receive for other programs and services. It's specifically for the request you're submitting. And once again, we do see this a lot, and we do the same thing in here. Please proofread, and check your math, and check page 1 with the total amount requested and the total project against your summary budget forms. That's where we see the most errors. We have often gotten the question, can an organization submit more than one application, particularly because we offer 2 application types of applications? No. Please choose one or the other. You will either submit one general application or one Janvrin application if you meet the criteria for the Janvrin fund. And you will only submit one application. We do get the question, sometimes an organization is part of a collaborative. There's another organization that's the lead applicant on a collaborative. And when we talk about collaboratives, and I'll touch on this a little more in just a minute, we're talking about organizations that are collaborating and directly sharing responsibilities for a program. It's not those that are sort of on the periphery and are supporting another organization just by getting the information out, but 2 or more organizations that are directly involved in bringing a service or a program to fruition. One organization is the applicant. So the second organization will often ask, can we submit a separate application? We have had organizations do that in the past, but it is a very competitive process, and there's a finite amount of funding to go around. So if you are directly involved in a collaborative and that is your primary focus, we encourage you to not submit a separate application for something else. Stick with the program that you are collaborating on, and consider submitting an application in a future cycle. Partnerships and collaborations, as I said, if they are 2 nonprofit organizations, 2 entities, 2 non-school-based entities in the community, directly working together to bring a program or service, one organization will submit the application under their name. They will be the fiduciary lead. That is who will receive the grant distribution if an award is given. However, the other organizations participating in the collaborative or the partnership must submit letters of commitment that are uploaded on it to explain how they're participating and that they are fully involved in the collaboration. And we do ask if it's new or ongoing, and if it's new, will it continue or is it a one-time? For school-based partnerships, so say your organization is working with a school or a full school district to bring your program into the school to supplement its curriculum or provide an after-school-based program for the school. We do need a letter from the superintendent if it's school district-wide, or if it's at a specific single school within the district, also the principal, that clearly states the school has committed to having you bring the program in, what the timeline is, and how it supplements and enhances their curriculum, does not replace it, and supplements what their budget is able to make possible. This ensures the schools know you're bringing your programs in, but it also ensures that the school understands this needs to be curriculum enhancing, supplemental to the curriculum, and is not replacing something that otherwise should be in the curriculum's operating budget at the school district level. So here are the required documents you will upload to your application. It's our CFMC budget summary form. It's your organization's operating budget with both estimated expense and revenue categories. A list of your board of directors with their professional affiliations. I want to stress this. We appreciate, sometimes in the past, we get board listings and they have email addresses and phone numbers and addresses. We don't need those. You're very nice to provide them to us, but it's not required. What we would like to know is what their professional affiliation is. For example, is a board member a community volunteer? That is phenomenal. Are they a CPA? Are they an attorney? Are they a retired CFO? The reason we ask, I'm the first to say, I'm very nosy. It helps us understand the skills and expertise that make up boards of directors within our nonprofit community. It also helps us know if you feel that you're missing a skill set on your board. Sometimes it helps us identify what that might be and maybe help you get the word out. We run for our board, we have a skills and assessment template that helps us determine what skills and expertise make up our board so we can see if we have any gaps with the governance work that goes on in the community. Or for the foundation to do our work, and that's one of the things that we're looking for, is to ensure you have what you need to meet your good governance. And yes, we ask this every time, but it's to ensure we have the correct EIN, as well as to make for new organizations that we have your IRS information. For 501c3 organizations, please submit your IRS determination letter. That's the letter that comes from the federal government, the IRS, that states your IRS EIN number and clearly states that they have determined that you meet the criteria as a 501c3 charitable organization. This is not the state of Connecticut charitable license. This is not the state of Connecticut business license. This is the IRS determination letter of your tax exempt position. If you are a school district, municipality, or a religious organization, you should have a document on file that determines you are exempt from federal taxes, either issued through the IRS or your CFO or legal professional. And applications that are joint nonprofit collaborations or nonprofit and school district collaborations, you require letters of support. If you are a coalition, and that means an entity that itself is not tax exempt, but you are working under a fiduciary agent or sponsor umbrella because you align with their components and they are your fiduciary agent for grant funding, I have a special form that fiduciary agent is required to complete in order for us to consider a coalition's application. So please send me an email and I will make sure you get that form to forward to your fiduciary agent, because it requires them to clearly state that should your coalition be awarded a grant, they are willing to be your fiduciary agent, accept grant funding, and ensure that your evaluation is completed accordingly. So just quick reminders, we cannot review incomplete applications. So before you click submit, just make sure everything is there. Sometimes the upload part of our website doesn't always participate. Technology glitches happen. I cannot stress this enough. Please do not struggle with our application. If you are having any technology issues, if you're having a problem with the application form itself, if you're having a problem uploading documents, please reach out to us right away, because you are probably not the only person that might be having a problem. If it's a problem with the application, I want to be able to evaluate that quickly. If it's problem getting certain documents uploaded, just let me know, because we have alternatives for you. We don't want anybody to struggle. Our goal with having an online application on our website is to streamline it. You do not register on the website to complete it. That's so you don't have to worry about doing any of that. But please don't fight with it. Let us know if you have technology issues or upload issues at any point. You will receive a copy after you click submit. If you don't receive it in 3 or 4 days, please let me know. We can forward that back to you if you don't, if you haven't received it. And we may have follow-up questions during the process. If we do, please be sure whoever is listed as the contact for the application, that the email address is correct, the phone number and any pertinent extension, if it's a business phone, are correct, to help facilitate that application follow-up process, because we usually have a very short turnaround in asking our follow-up questions and getting the information back. If you have a current open award from a previous cycle, meaning you have received a grant award in a prior process and you have not submitted your final evaluation, your final evaluations are due on April 14th. If you have a current grant, active grant, that is still in process, it's not finished yet, we do have an interim form that you can submit to let us know what the status of that previously supported program or service is, and then what the potential end date is. So please make sure you're up to date, either with final evaluations from prior grants or the interim form, which the final evaluation form is available on our website. If you need the interim grant report form, you do need to reach out and we will email that to you. As always, we are always interested in photos and stories from our recent cycles. We're beginning to build our report to the community. We love to update our board. We love to update our donors. So we're always interested in photos and stories. Here's your timeline. The cycle opened on the 3rd, so the application is active. All of the information is out there, except obviously this recording, which will be uploaded by Monday. April 2nd is the due date for applications. And I want to stress this, everyone, please mark your calendars. 4 p.m. on April 2nd is the deadline, 4 p.m. We will review applications with our committees during April and May. Our committee will present their recommendations to our board in June. The last week of June and the first week of July, we will notify all of the applicants of final decisions. And we call regardless. If you receive full funding, if you're going to receive partial funding, or if unfortunately we have to deny the application for this cycle, we call everyone. And then you'll get a grant agreement letter. We'll have the PR and evaluation workshop in August, as well as your grant distributions. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, if you refer back to the slides and you need clarification, please feel free to send an email. We are happy to answer any questions. We can provide guidance. If you're having technical issues with our application, please, by all means, let us know. That's really important as well. And we appreciate that you joined us today. Thank you so much.